now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show brings you famous celebrities and amazing people from all over the world. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. So sit back and relax and enjoy the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check your Facebook page, Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, as well as iTunes, Google Play, and Apple. You can also download the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device and take the Mike Wagner Show with you. And also subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. We're here with a wonderful lady from Philadelphia, PA. She's an R&B, jazz, folk, pop singer growing up in the New York City, Spanish Harlem area. Makes me think of that song. She's got a new album out called Better Days, which is released October 9th. That's her 9th album, and working very hard. Born in Spanish Harlem, raised in the Bronx, and a very unique style, which makes her stand out, and definitely has some better days ahead for the 6-foot-tall singer-songwriter, and, of course, winning audiences with her unique style, and just a lot of great musicians, and includes a lot of great hits, won some awards, and before we get to all that, we'd like to give a huge, warm Philadelphia welcome, without the cheesesteak, Lili Anel. Lili, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So you're now in the Philadelphia area. You're an R&B, jazz, folk, pop singer. You've got a new album out called Better Days, which is released October 9th, which is your 9th album, and you're working pretty hard at, by the way. Born in Spanish Harlem, raised in the Bronx. It makes me think of that song, Spanish Harlem, It's Dancing in My Head, and maybe you can sing that for us. You also include some tunes in there, and you also got one of your hits, Take It From Me. We'll talk about that. You won some awards. And before we get into all that, Lili, tell us how you got started.
How did I get started? I always loved music. It was always around me. It was almost like there was no choice. I kind of felt from a very young age that's what I wanted to do. I loved singing. When I was raised in East Harlem, we lived above a record store. And I remember as a kid feeling the vibrations from the floor, from the ceiling of the record store beneath us. Mm-hmm. And that has a huge impact, especially when you're a kid. You know, you're hearing rhythm all day long, and you're hearing music. And my family always had music playing. If it wasn't the radio, they were playing records, and there was no escaping it. And in some ways, it was an escape for me, singing. And when I first sang, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I used to sing in the choir. It made having to go to church tolerable for me. I enjoyed singing. It was like, well, if I'm going to be here, let me do something I like. So singing was it.
That's interesting as well, too. And what are some of your favorite singers growing up, since you had the record player going, the radio, and especially downstairs in the record shop just going nonstop? So what are some of your favorite artists, and what are some of the most common music being played at the record store, which you felt the vibration? Maybe some music, and some people, shut that thing off or anything like that.
Right.
So.
No, the record store that was beneath us, they played Latin music. Mm-hmm. It was Spanish Harlem, and the rhythms of it all were there. It was almost like breathing. It was part of life. Mm-hmm. A lot of traditional, so what they would call later on they would call salsa, or they would be part of a lot of the Cuban music, charangas, the different music that you could dance to. The popular music of the day on the Spanish stations, and they play a lot of the old-timey songs that my grandparents would, out of nowhere, a song would come on and they just start dancing. which was very common. So that the sense of music and time and dancing and enjoyment and entertainment, that was like a given at home. So it was a big influence. My mom used to tell me that I have a twin sister. When we were kids, whenever they'd show the precursor, or I don't know if it was American Bandstand or it was what's his name? He got in trouble with the law for payola.
Let's see. Are you referring to Alan Freed being
Alan Freed?
Alan Freed, yeah, because the host was Dick Clark, and Alan Freed was the one that got convicted of payola.
Right. Well, one of those shows, she said, whenever we were like really little, and the show would come on TV, and I would run to the TV and kiss it. I don't know why, but there was a connection of music, I suppose. I don't remember it, but she used to say, "Yeah, you used to do that." So, but I mean, music was always all around us, and in church, it was during church, and like I said, it made church. Made it to be able for me to deal with singing. So I always sang, and I sang along with records, and it was just one of those things that we lived in a not great area. Then we moved on to the South Bronx, and going outside to play was not something that happened a lot. At that point, we were living above a pharmacy in a railroad flat. And so there was the radio to keep you company and sing with. And so the reward for doing well in school was 45s. So my mother would get paid on Friday, and we'd give her a list of 45s, like the latest, and back then, 10 cents you could buy or whatever, for $1 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And how would come home with new records.
And how many pages did you give her of a list of records? I'm just curious.
Sometimes it was like 2 sides of a page, and then she'd come home with an album.
Wow.
It was great, because it would be like, well, you wanted this one, it's a flip side of this one, so here's these 2 songs. And all these songs are on this new album, which we had no idea, so we'd go insane. And the biggest influence at that point was the Beatles.
Amazing.
They were all over, so I was like, oh my God. So, we'd spend most of our time, let's put it this way. Eventually she'd say, it's late, turn that thing off. My sister and I were always listening. So that was I don't know if it was, a bribe to do well in school or the impetus, but it was music. So as long as it was music, I didn't care.
I think Mom taught you how to save money. Instead of buying all these singles, she bought you albums. I think that was a really wise move.
Yeah, well, she'd try to find out, like, all these songs, and she'd figure it out, it's on an album here, So that was pretty cool. She was on top of it. She was pretty good.
And of course, besides the Beatles you talked about and some of Spanish Harlem, who are some of your favorite artists and other influence, like you grew up with, and also your parents and grandparents, grew up as well?
Wow. My mom, it was a combination of jazz and Latin music. Latin music, of course, she loves Celia Cruz from Cuba.
Oh, Celia Cruz, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, God, she, another well-known singer from Cuba, Benny Moré, El Barroso, and he was very well-known. Of course, Orquesta Aragon, which was a band that played the popular dance music of the day and had all those records. That I wish I still had. I wonder, I don't recall what happened to all those records, but some of them, they just re-released and I bought on CD in a package, which is fantastic. She also played a lot of jazz, so she played a lot of Billie Holiday. They loved, Nat King Cole was God in my house.
Oh, my favorite.
And they played a lot of Nat King Cole. They played a lot of Count Basie, also Frank Sinatra. My mother always told us a story when she was young, that, those days when she was young, they would have matinee shows in the afternoon. So my grandfather told her, you can go see Frank Sinatra, but don't stay for the second show. Come home, be in time for dinner. But she went to the afternoon show and stayed for the next show and came home, and she always got in a world of trouble. Said, but Pa, it was Frankie. And my grandfather was like, I don't care who it was. I told you to come home on time. So she always told that story. She loved Frank Sinatra. So there was a lot of, we heard, the standards, the jazz standards, the American songbook that was being sung at home. Sarah Vaughan was another huge singer in my house, so I heard a lot of singing, a lot of really fine singers and instrumentalists. My mom also liked, it's ironic, today would have been his birthday. We played a lot of John Coltrane.
Wow.
So we got, it was a Latin and jazz. There was a lot of that. My sister and I were the ones that played, the R&B, the rock and roll, as we got older and started to, buy our own music. But it was, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, we have to hear this again. Oh God, she's playing that again. But it was influencing the both of us, my sister and my sister and I. It was a huge influence. And I'm grateful because that was great music and it was great singing. People don't sing like that anymore. The style and their approach, which was brilliant. We don't hear a lot of that anymore.
Mm-hmm. And of course, too, especially what happened in Cuba as well, too, 1962. And of course, you can still find some good music. But of course, I guess what happened with the regime as well. And and of course, with Fidel Castro taking over, do you think there's still some Cuban music that's being churned out, or did it come, or do you think completely just came to a complete halt?
Oh no, there's a lot of great music, a lot of great musicians coming out of Cuba right now. Jane Burnett, who's a saxophone player, put a band together called Maquete, and it's all women, and they're just tearing it up. They're on a tour. They sound amazing, just fantastic. Another Cuban that came to the United States and did well after that was Paquito de Rivera, who also plays horn. There's a lot of musicians. There's also Pedrito, the percussionist, and he's playing with everybody. So it's not just Afro-Cuban or Cuban. He's playing with everybody, and it's great. There's a ton of other musicians whose names at the moment escape me, but no, it's still coming along. It seems to be more, a lot more crossed over, a lot more like a Latin jazz or jazz with Latin. But the Cuban music that wasn't standard as it was evolving definitely leaned toward jazz.
As amazing. Of course, another came to mind is Perez Prado. I think it was Cherry Wine? Yes, that's it. It's like, I remember that song, back in the day, too. It's like, you're right. It's like, parents just had records all over the place. They call it hi-fi and everything. And, of course, if you allow money, had reel-to-reel, then you had the cassette. And for those who are too lazy to change those to 8-track. And, we just had the 45s, and it just makes me want just get the old hi-fi again. Just pull out the records. This is great.
Yeah, I don't even, like I said, I don't know where those records wound up. And of course, we'll talk about your album in just a minute as well, too. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Radio Public, as well as Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, and Apple. Also on the YouTube channel under The Mike Wagner Show. You can take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device and subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on YouTube also. We're here with Philadelphia's Lili Anel, born in the Spanish Harlem, raised in the Bronx. It makes me think of Benny King's song in the Spanish Harlem, which is just amazing. And her music being a hybrid of jazz, folk, soul, and pop, which is a very unique combination. She has a new album out called Better Days, which is going to be released October 9th. It's her 9th album, by the way, and includes the title track. And let's talk about your album and your single that you're currently pushing right now on internet. Yeah, I will make one correction. The album will be on October 4th.
October 4th. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's quite all right.
Okay. I think I got my numbers mixed up, but it'll be sometime in October. So hopefully people don't rush out too quickly. So let's talk about your album and the one song that you're making a big push for.
Well, the first single is called Take It From Me. And it's in a more of a soul funk vein, akin to Sly and the Family Stone, which was a band that I loved tremendously. I love the music, love the way he wrote for horns, and there's a horn section on this record, and I wanted it that way on this particular song. And it's just a lot of fun to sing. It's a song with a lot of attitude. It kind of tells a story of someone who's saying, well, take it from me, and they give their whole spiel on something, and they talk about friendship, and they talk about life, and that's what it's about. And it's a fun song. I love singing it, and I love playing it, and the horns are great.
And speaking of singing, maybe you can just sing a little bit for us, because I got to listen to it. I mean, it sounds fantastic. And let's hear from you. We love to hear you sing today.
Oh, God. Just off the cuff like this?
Sure.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of it. Take it from me. You can't tell me what to do, 'cause when I'm through, I'm through. And I agree. The world is round, although I've fallen off its edge time and again. Okay, that's it. You got to go out and buy the single.
Well, we love to hear you sing as well, too. It's fantastic. You also got some other singles, including Thin Line, the title track, Number One, The Wrong Time, Family Affair, and more. Being just tell us a little about those songs as well.
Well, as I mentioned, I love Sly and the Family Stone, and I decided, let me cover one of his songs. And I liked Family Affair. And I remember as a kid hearing that song and thinking, I identified with it because the first verse, he says, one child grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and the other child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. I was the child that was getting burned.
Oh, my.
My sister was the good kid, and I was the one that always got in trouble. So I identified with it, and I thought I put my spin on it, and it turned out pretty good. The title track I wrote the lyric. I co-wrote it with my sister, but it's based on something my grandfather used to always tell us when times were rough. He'd always tell us better days will come. And even as a grown-up, and he's been gone for a long time, I always remember whenever there's a hardship of any kind, that I say to myself, well, better days are going to come. And they have come. And sometimes things, it's the ebb and flow, the peaks and the valleys. And I thought I'd write about that sometimes I know I have often felt like if I could do it all over again, I'd get it all right. And the thing is, one, that chance doesn't come. And two, it's probably not true. And you wouldn't be who you are and where you are if not for making the mistakes and figuring things out. But we still think that. I'm sure all of us do. And I want people to identify with, you're not alone when you think, if I could just, if I could do this just over like one time, it'll be okay. And it's like, guess what? Even with the hardship, it is okay. And on top of that, it gets better. We just have to ride it out. And so that was the basis for that song. And that had a good turn. It has a wonderful horn solo by Corey Riker.
Oh, that is nice. I was going to talk about some of your bandmates as well, too, like Dale Melton on the keys, Jeffrey Blunt on the bass, and Jonathan Whitney on the drums. I sound like a jazz DJ just giving out the names here. And they play with some great performers. Maybe just tell us about each one and who they play with. And now we just want to find out if you guys were all friends, or did you audition to these guys, or how'd you guys all come together?
Well, the bass player, Jeffrey Blount, I've known Jeff for 30 plus years.
Wow.
When I first started to play music, I met him. He was one of my bandmates in New York. So we've been working together for a long time. And we continue to do so even though we moved to different places. I left New York, he left New York, moved to the West Coast, moved to Chicago, moved around. I also moved around. And I wanted to have a sense of cohesiveness with bandmates and make this record with the band members that I play live with. And so Jeff has been working with me again now for about 5 years. And he's part of the band, and he's an amazing player. And I could say he's a good friend to me as well. I mean, I know his family, his kids. I've seen everybody grow up. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan Whitney, an amazing drummer. I heard him play with a band that I opened for, did a co-bill with in Philadelphia back in 2013, I think it was, or 2012. And I sat there and I listened to him. And my bassist at the time, we were both standing there listening. And he leaned over to me and he goes, "That's your future drummer." And I looked at him and I said, "I think you're right," because he was incredible. And we connected and we talked. And I said, I would like us to work together sometime. And every time something came up that I could have him, he was booked already.
Oh,
and
wow.
Eventually it was serendipity. It came together when finally I said, "Listen, are you available this date? I'd like to work." And he was, and it was like magic. It's just like hand in glove. We all work well together. Dale Melton, I've known for quite some time. It's interesting. He's an identical twin, just like I am.
Mm-hmm.
And he started out with his brother, and they were the Melton brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And they made a big noise. They're from Delaware. They made a big noise in Delaware some years ago. They were on television. They made an album. They were heard. The album went as far as Europe and was selling. And I didn't know that Dale had his own studio that he put together. And I don't mean like, people say, "Oh, I have a studio," and you go in their basement and they have a computer and they have monitors. And no, not like that. That's what I had, I went to his home and he said, "Well, come in through the barn." And it's just like the barn. But when you open the door and you walk in, it's like, whoa. He had a wonderful studio, and I listened to some work that he did, and he goes, "Maybe for your next record, we might consider this." And we played some music live together where he played. I love the sound of a B3 organ. It was my first instrument that I thought I'd learn how to play, and I didn't, but I just love it. So he plays Hammond B3 as well as piano and Wurlitzer in the band, and he's also my co-producer and engineer. He's a really fine engineer and co-producer, and we work well together, and so far that's it. Any extras on in particular on this record, the horn players are Corey Riker and Christopher Stevens, and they work with John Legend.
Nice.
And they're just amazing arrangers and players. I just love what they did with my songs. And, so far so good. I love the sound of the record, and I love where it's going. They play on 2 songs. Corey plays saxophone on the title track, Better Days. And then the horn sections together and they play various horns, not just 2, on Thin Line, which is a remake of a song I've recorded before, but I started performing it live in a different fashion. This has more of a New Orleans sound, a second line type of sound, and I wanted to get that and record it. And it turned out quite good.
Nice.
And then they play on Take It From Me. And it's the rest of the band on all the other songs. Oh, and John Lilly of the Hooters plays electric guitar on Peace of Mind, which is, people might think, well, they always ask, like, you introduced me and you listed all the different types of styles that I play in. I'm a hybrid of styles. I can't say it, I won't just call myself jazz because it's not that. I'm jazz influenced. I'm not straight ahead or traditional. I started out playing acoustic guitar, so there's definitely a folk influence, but definitely also a jazz influence because of the people that I listen to. So it's kind of all in there, all mixed up. I'm from New York, and so there you have it. New York, we're a little bit of everything.
It sounds like it too. You're trying to come up with something unique, a very unique sound, and also let's talk about like your very first CD you released, "Laughed Last" from 1994, and that's amazing. Just from the first and comparing to right now, just tell us a little bit about that. It's like that sounds interesting.
That first CD was released on Palmetto Records. That was in its infancy at the time. It was an independent, and now has gone on to be a bigger label with a lot of huge jazz names. I was one of maybe the first of their singer-songwriters that they signed. And the head of the label at the time actually was a bandmate of mine, and he went on to start a label. And prior to that, I had been living in Toronto, Canada. And I moved back to the United States, and he said, "Hey, I started a label. You want to make a record?" And I said, "Of course." So we, recorded my songs. It was a new experience for me. He had a very set idea with the direction of the songs musically, and mine ideas were a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But I was a novice in that area at the time, so I couldn't be too pushy about certain things. And that's what has led me to re-record some of those songs, because they weren't, in the end, how I envisioned. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I didn't have the voice or the experience, if you know what I mean, to say, no, I don't want that. No, I want this. I didn't have the dialogue or the language to be able to put that down. Mm-hmm. But, it was still a very well-received record. I toured behind it. And it was, a wonderful experience to be able to put out the beginnings of my music. And then things changed, and the label went on in a different direction, and I was dropped because they went in a different direction. They were more straight ahead jazz, more instrumental, although they've had some vocalists on the label, but it's mostly instrumental jazz that they have on there.
Mm-hmm. You also followed up with High Octane Coffee. You did a reissue of the Laugh Last, 3 bonus tracks of Core Live, Dream Again, Every Second in Between, I Can See Bliss From Here, also Another Place, Another Time. And you just have an amazing collection. Maybe just pick one or two. Just tell us all about them as well.
After Laugh Last, it took a few years. I moved to Pennsylvania. No, that was in New York. I met up with a producer who offered a spec deal and said, well, let's record a record and then try to get you a record deal. And if the record deal comes through, everybody makes money. And if the record deal doesn't come through, well, too bad. That's the usual. That's how it goes. And I made High Octane Coffee, and I was lucky to work with some of the best session players in New York. And it sounded fantastic. Mm-hmm. Nothing happened. I could get into why, but it's best that I don't.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
And it's a really good record. And then I moved to Philadelphia, and I started working with a bassist. It's just the two of us playing together. His name is Cook Harvey, really fine bassist. And he said, let's make a record. And we put musicians together, and he had recording equipment at home, and we did it there. And that was the first album, Dream Again, that got recognition, where Jazz Times decided to review it. Mm-hmm. It took everyone by surprise. Sonically, for me, it's not as up there as the other records, but I mean, the songs are still great songs, and so they recognized it and gave us a really fine review, and that opened some doors, and we continued playing, and I went in a different direction. I wanted to work with a producer to grow, not just another musician. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And then I recorded Every Second in Between at Morningstar Studios out of Pennsylvania, here in Philadelphia, which was fantastic. I worked with Glenn Barrett, who's Grammy-winning, Grammy-nominated engineer, producer.
Nice.
He'd worked with I don't know if you're familiar with. He'd worked with Melody Gardot. The album that he made with her is how she got signed to Universal. Uh-huh. And so, I mean, I worked with some great musicians there. One musician in particular that I became friends with, that I'd known about prior from his work with George Duke and with singer-songwriter Rochelle Farrell, Jeff Lee Johnson, an amazing guitarist who unfortunately we lost in 2013. But it was fantastic working with all of them. And, you keep pushing forward, you inch your way up, you get heard, you get some reviews, you keep playing live. And I put that record out myself. The next record was I Can See Bliss From Here, which I made with Dale Melton. And that was also very well received. The performances, got reviews, you keep going. Then I put out an EP. Because it's expensive making records. I don't have to tell you that.
Right. It's understandable.
Who's listening,
yeah.
It's not like, it's no. And I put out an EP. It wasn't as many songs, but it was a good EP. And all those CDs got airplay, for more and more. After that, I was fortunate to connect with Winding Way Records. And this was over a year and a half ago. And I met with the head of that label, independent label out of Philadelphia. And he said, hey, I want to make a record. Let's do this. And I was in the process of making Better Days. I didn't know it was going to be Better Days at the time. But I said, well, I'm in the middle of something. And he goes, okay, well, finish it. Let me hear it. And then we'll put it out. And here's where we are. And I signed with them. And we're pushing, giving it a good big push and performing and got stuff in the works and reviews and interviews and so that the world will hear the music. That's the whole point.
That is amazing, too. And you also won numerous awards. We'll get to that in just a second. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and Apple. You can take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and make sure you tell everybody about the Mike Wagner Show here on the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with singer Lili Anel. Currently in Philadelphia. She's an R&B, jazz, folk, pop singer, and got a new album called Better Days, which we talked about as well, too, and being released October 4th. It's her 9th album, and we talked about many of her albums, and also garnered, not just a lot of airplay, but also quite a number of awards. You're the recipient of the New York Music Awards back in 2010, Best Singer-Songwriter, Best Jazz Album, and Best Female Jazz Vocalist. You can just tell us a little bit about that, and if there's any awards they're missing, you can just tell us about that as well, too, and I'm sure you guys are busy building up a little trophy case or little award room on that right now.
Yeah,
I hear the pounding, bang, bang, bang. Dad, Mom, tone it down here.
No, that was a surprise. I had won a 1989 New York Music Award for Best Unsigned Artist. And I remember laughing when I got that. I said, the most rejected. That's how I took it. But
what? Best unsigned artist? Oh, my gosh.
But what they meant was, I was the best artist that wasn't under a label. And I get that. But when you say it like you could take it, and never mind. I was honored. And then I was very surprised in 2010 when I received those awards. I had absolutely no idea I was even being considered for them. And I'm very honored, especially, being a native New Yorker. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't living in New York at the time. They said to me, you'll always be a New Yorker, and I don't care where you go. And I said, well, thank you. Mm-hmm. I've also received quite a few. There's a radio station out of Delaware, and my brain is going blank, but it's the Homie Awards, the Hometown Heroes Awards. So the local people that make music. Awards, and I won a few of those as well. I'm always humbled by it. I don't know, that's why off the top of my head I go, okay, which ones? I have to look it up. But it's the thing is to just do your best and to what's the point behind it? It isn't to get awards. It's to people. Someone asked me once, why do you want to be successful as a musician or as a songwriter? And my response is, I want to affect people in some way, make them think, make them feel. That's important. Mm-hmm. And that they walk away getting, many concerts I've gone to hear people that I like. I walk away and I remember a song and I'm like, God, they wrote that about me. And maybe it gave me solace, or maybe it gave me an answer, or maybe it just made me smile and I enjoyed it. And that's the whole point behind it.
That's very nice. And do you currently have a tour planned going on right now?
The label's in the process of of putting all of that together.
Great. Okay.
Which I'm very excited about.
And we're looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to having you back on and keep us up to date and just tell us about the tour and everything else. And just a few more minutes here. We know you're very busy, but of course, it's always great to have you on. You've been fantastic. What do you consider your most favorite project and the most challenging?
My most favorite project and the most challenging.
Correct.
Way to put me on the spot, let's say. Well, you know what? It's always the most recent thing you've worked on. For me. It's always challenging. Do you get across what it is you wanted to say, how you wanted to say it? And that's always challenging. And I could say with this recording, we started out recording a year and a half ago, and we wound up having to stop, and I took a break, and I said, let's come back after the Christmas holidays, and we redid 3 songs.
Wow.
Because even though we got sometimes it just didn't feel right. I said, I think we need to live with these songs a little bit so that when we come back and play them, it's like they marinated. Mm-hmm. And when we came back and started to rehearse, to re-record 3 songs, it was like magic.
Nice.
And that was challenging. It's not, people think that, you're going to go into the studio. We blocked off 4 weeks. We're going to go 4 days a week with a day off in between, blah, blah. Sometimes you just have to take a step back. Mm-hmm. So that was definitely challenging. Challenging.
It almost sounds like you had the holiday pressure as well, too, which could affect it as well, too.
Yeah, well, it was right. We stopped, I'm going to say, was it October? It was before October. And I listened to what we did, and we kept listening. And I said, something's not right. Let's do it again. Let's wait till after the holidays. Because that's just, you're right. There is pressure there, and just don't think about it. Go home, spend time with your family, do the thing. And then we got back together in February or the end of January and said, okay, let's do this. And then somehow everything clicked. In between, I was researching, I'd listen and I'm like, what is it more like what I want to do? And I'd listen to different songs by other artists that I'd like to think. It might be a little of this and it might be a little of that and and then my own thing came together. Mm-hmm. So that I will say, that's a good question you asked me, by the way. That definitely was challenging, but fortunately we all communicate well in terms of the music, and we were all able to get it together. In particular, the rhythm. My music is very rhythmic, and so working with Jonathan Whitney on percussion and on drums, he's amazing because he's very open-minded, and he got what I was trying to explain to him. And we communicated well together, and everything turned out beautiful. That
is amazing. It's a good thing you did take a holiday break. I need to remind everybody as well, too, that if you do need to take a break on anything, especially on a holiday, I like to remind our listeners, if you have a chance to take a break, please do it, because we don't want you guys getting sick, ending up in a hospital and everything. So that is a very good reminder. And what do you consider your most memorable moment?
In terms of recording?
It can be anything, like shows, recording, or albums, or, just singing or something. It's like, what's like the most memorable? It's like you can just think of just one thing.
I don't know. The best thing that I could say is when you have sometimes that moment on stage, you're playing pick any song, and for some reason, everything just clicks so brilliantly, and you get goosebumped. Mm-hmm. And you look over, and I look over and I see Jonathan, and I'll look over at Jeff, I'll look over at Dale, and I could feel like we're all in that same line. And the music, as it's during one of the solos or something, and it just feels like everything just elevated, and we connected with the audience, and you feel like, I always liken it to on Star Trek, the original, when he'd say, beam me up, and this ray of light came down and engulfed you. That's what it feels like.
Nice.
That feeling, that's the most incredible feeling. And for me, I can only get that when I'm playing music. And there are those moments that happen, it's just an incredible thing. And when you finish, when it's over and it's the end of the night and you look back, you go, oh my God, that happened. And it's a wonderful, there is nothing like that.
I guess beaming you up just takes on a different meaning on stage for you guys.
Yeah, totally. It's we know this in the same way that we know when something didn't work, you feel it. But for the most part, I can say I'm fortunate enough to say that it does work, and it has worked, and it continues to work, and it's a lot of fun, and it seems like the audience gets it as well. So that's extremely memorable.
Very memorable indeed, and that's a very good point as well, too. And just a couple more things here. Who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Geez. Only one?
It can be several. It's like you can do one, two, three, several, dozen.
Okay, here we go. As in different categories. As a songwriter, my biggest influence was Lennon and McCartney, the Beatles, as well. Joan Armatrading, Janice Ian, Joni Mitchell, definitely. Michael Brecker. I love tenor saxophone. I listen to more instrumental jazz than as vocalist. But tenor saxophone, I don't know, because I'm a singer, for some reason, I just connect with it. If when I went to sing and I opened my mouth, the sound of a tenor saxophone came out, I'd be sad, as far as I'm concerned. And I know that's never going to happen. So, but it's just that how I feel. Michael Brecker, I mentioned him. Sheila Jordan, who I studied with, jazz singer. Nancy Wilson, Anita O'Day. Graham Parker, Elvis Costello.
Yes.
Songwriters. And I was great. I opened for Graham Parker once. I picked his brain. I think he was annoyed with me. I asked him a lot of songwriting questions.
Oh my gosh. But you can't take love for granted.
What was that?
But you can't take love for granted, as he once sang. So.
Yeah, no, he was something. A lot of people that I've worked with, but there's so many influences. There's a lot, James Taylor, Paul Simon, definitely Paul Simon. I mean, talk about a songwriter. Oof. It just goes on and on. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have that music that I listened to, that I saw performed live. And I walked away going, God, that's amazing.
That is amazing, and just a lot of influences, just mixing everything together is fantastic. What's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
With reference to?
It can be whatever comes to mind.
Live your best life.
Well said. Well said. All right, Lili, just want to say a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic and learned a lot from you. Looking forward to having you on again soon, and keep us up to date. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? And where can people purchase your music?
Sure. The single, Take It From Me, will be released September 27th, Friday. The album will be released, Better Days, on Winding Way Records, will be released Friday, October 4th. You'll be able to find it everywhere, on iTunes, on Spotify, on, fill in the blank. My website is www.lilanel.org, or you could go to windingwayrecords.com for more information. And contact, if you go to my website, there's a contact page. If you go to windingwayrecords.com, there's a contact page with me being part of it as well. If you want to reach me, you can contact them.
That is fantastic. And Lili, just want to say once again a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. And do us a favor, keep us up to date, and look forward to having you again soon. You've been fantastic.
Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed it immensely.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. Also, become a sponsor of the program and or donate today at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of The Mike Wagner Show.